Before I turn it over to Ted, I'll just give a quick intro to Leap and what Leap is for those of you who are not familiar on our call today. So basically, real short and sweet overview, Leap is a end-to-end point of sale solution for the home improvement industry. So it's really helping contractors to digitize the entire in-home sales process. Everything from generating estimates to displaying your company stories, going through brochures electronically and generating your proposals and contracts. It also integrates with financing and includes secure payment capture options. It's basically everything that you do from the time that you pull up in the driveway, or if you are starting a digital appointment or things like that, until you're done. So it's going to include everything you need to kind of kick off that appointment with your customer, all the way through to you sending them the completed digital contract for them to sign off on. So it's really a very great and comprehensive tool. And I think we'll talk a little bit more about that later on today. So with that being said, I'd like to continue on with our introductions and welcome Ted Kozel with Socius Marketing. Ted specializes in digital marketing and business growth with Socius and has an extensive sales and consulting experience in a variety of different industries. He's spoken on some national and international events for his different product groups on how to leverage various techniques, products, and education into growing your business. So we're really excited to have you with us here today, Ted. So if you'd like to kind of expand on that introduction and tell us a little bit more about Socius, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for having me, and it's great to see you guys again. Socius, what I always tell people is we specialize in two things: online lead generation and lead conversion. And that's really our focus and always has been, especially in the home improvement space. We've been around since 2006 and are lucky enough to work with Tundraland along with several other clients throughout the US. And we really just want to help and focus in this home improvement space. And this is a great opportunity to kind of talk to a pro who kind of knows and has gone through the highs and the lows and can help answer, I think, a lot of questions that people are going to be interested in.
Fantastic. So with that.
Yep, absolutely, which leads me to be able to introduce that I'm very excited to have here, Brian Gottlieb, fantastic guy, Tundraland. Hopefully you guys have all heard of Tundraland. If you haven't, you should definitely check him out. Without a doubt, he is an inspirational business owner with over 4 decades of experience in sales, marketing, and leadership, you name it. And this truly is honest, I think, the next part here. His innovative approach to these community conscious businesses have not gone unnoticed, as Tundraland has been named the #1 place in Wisconsin to work. And Brian personally has been named Entrepreneur of the Year by USA Today News Network, as well as the Entrepreneur of the Year and Business Person of the Year by Chamber of Commerce. So really excited to have you here, Brian. Thank you very much for the time.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ted.
Yeah, absolutely.
You too, Kelly. Yeah, it's going to be exciting. I'll share some stories about Tundraland, answer some questions for you. You know, and just it's important to know, just as I frame this out. So we cover a couple of markets. We cover Arizona, and we cover the state of Wisconsin. Our products consist of Renewal by Andersen Windows. We're a jacuzzi bath remodel business. We do outdoor living with decks, and then we also do Kohler walk-in tubs. But as you'll learn over the next 40 minutes or so, we believe that the purpose of business is to make a decent profit decently. What that means is we believe a company can do well and also do good. So I'm excited to share our story with you. Hopefully you'll pick up some nuggets, and thanks for joining us today.
Fantastic. So with that, we'll go ahead and jump into our Q&A kind of discussion style session today. So Ted, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So Brian, as we have certainly seen, different ways of dealing with how to run your business effectively during COVID, more and more we're hearing the possibility of a second wave or possibly additional restrictions. Knowing and learning what you've learned and the things that worked and didn't work, what would you do differently if this were to kick off again tomorrow, and how would you prepare knowing what you know now?
Yeah, great question, Ted. And look, keeping our customers safe and our employees safe, first and foremost, are the most important things in business. What I'll share with you, if you're on this webinar right now, and you're in the home improvement business, congratulations, you've just earned a PhD in crisis management. So look, we all had to learn a whole lot in a very short amount of time with no playbook to turn to. We didn't say, well, let's go to page 73 of how to deal with the coronavirus and get the answer to our questions. So I think it's super important that anytime we're dealing with disruption in our organization or dealing with times of uncertainty, it's super important to have a learning mindset, to know that you might not have all the answers, but it's important to reach out to other groups and other organizations and other people in your industry so you can hopefully find those answers. You know, some of the things we learned is that, first of all, we've got the greatest team in the world. I'm so proud of our team, our leaders, these people that came out to become leaders, that have grown within the business. And one of the things we implemented, I guess it was March 13th or thereabouts, when we started losing our home shows and our Sam's Club opportunities to schedule appointments, and fairs and festivals started falling off. All of a sudden, we saw our leads going down by like 70%. So we immediately started with a daily leadership huddle. We have a great leadership team. We were meeting once a week pre-COVID. We moved it to once a day. I don't think I'll ever go back to a weekly meeting with our leadership team. They say the great illusion of communication is thinking it was accomplished. I thought we talked about that. Didn't we talk about that? I thought we talked. So strong communication in times of uncertainty. Whether or not there is a second wave that's to come, one thing we know is that we don't know. And because of that, strong communication is really necessary. I also learned that we had to take our call center, which had 40 people, and overnight, bam, had to get them to work remotely. I'm not so sure we're ever going to go back to having 40 people in a call center again, working in one room. What we found is, in fact, before this webinar started, Kelly, Ted, and I were talking about how do you like working from home. What we find is that there are certain parts of the business that are actually more productive working remotely. It also opens up a hiring pool to people far beyond people that want to drive to Tundraland and work in a call center. So now single moms, people with kids, somebody wants a part-time job, all of a sudden, they don't even have to live in Wisconsin. So it really does create opportunity for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll go ahead and jump into our question number 2. I think this is something that we've heard a lot from just chatting with different customers and things on the LEAP side of things. And they're really seeing kind of a combination of things based on location and just like what their customer pool is of homeowners, in terms of like a combination, like are people preferring a more of a digital approach, more of an in-person, kind of a combination, and how that in-person appointment has really changed with social distancing and the other various considerations and effects now. So what are you guys seeing in Tundraland, and how is this affecting your regular appointment?
Yeah, and I'll answer that through the lens of 2 different markets, of both Arizona and through Wisconsin. We're still seeing people very excited to have a salesperson come to their home, as long as you're doing it safely. That's really important, as long as you're doing it safely. We always offer the opportunity for a virtual appointment, and we have a virtual team. It's interesting how this industry has fast forwarded to selling online. You know, we've been talking about this for years in our industry, how one day we have to go start selling online. Well, you know, so here it is. We're doing it today. So there is a percentage of online selling that we're doing. Still, the bulk of our appointments do happen face to face. But what we are doing is every one of our salespeople, and we have about 60 salespeople. So all of our salespeople have folding tables in their trunk, and they also have folding chairs in their trunk. So we can offer to have an appointment outside if we want. We can sit out on somebody's deck. We can sit in the garage, and it's really helpful. But I think the real opportunity here, though, is that there's always a group of people that I think we're just starting to tap into now. That if you look at, I want to share a story with you for a second. I want to do an analogy here. If you've ever been to the circus, okay, if you've ever been to the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus, and you would have asked a whole bunch of people, how do you like the circus? Some people would tell you, well, I don't like the cruelty to animals, or I don't like the smell of the circus, and I don't like the dirt inside of the circus, and the food is no good, but I like the entertainment. But so there's a whole list of things that people don't like about the circus, and then there's a list of things that people do like about the circus. When Cirque du Soleil came along, they decided to get rid of all the things that people don't like about the circus, stick with the things that people do like about the circus, get rid of the animals, get rid of the smell, get rid of the bad food, and instead of charging $10 a ticket, now they can charge $200 a ticket. What they did is they went after non-circus goers. They didn't go after circus goers, they went after a whole nother category of non-circus goers. I do think the idea of selling virtually and selling online, there's always that group of people that want an appointment. But I still think there's a huge group of people that really want to try to buy online. And I think this gives us an opportunity to really reach a whole new audience that we didn't even reach before. What we're doing today by selling virtually gets us there. And by the way, Leap has been, I don't know that we could have done what we're doing virtually without Leap as a partner in our business. It's made the whole presentation model a whole lot easier.
Could I ask a follow-up question there, Brian, to that? How do you see, with the continued need of virtual sales happening, do you see a different type of salesperson, like an inside sales team dedicated to it? And then have you started to identify any factors you think fit one personality or one salesperson better than the other?
Right. Yeah, I do see it as a different salesperson. First and foremost, I also see it as a slightly different compensation structure. So I just think it's I think it's a different salesperson. Look, if you're a salesperson and you have the choice of driving 2 hours to go on an appointment or sit in front of your laptop, you might choose the second. So I mean, I think it's a different team. They have to be a little more familiar with technology. They have to remember to look at the camera and not at themselves on the screen. There are a lot of things that I think go into that. But also, it's about it. To me, it's one thing to create a relationship when you're sitting in somebody's home and you can comment on, oh my gosh, you got cute kids. I see a picture on the wall. You're petting the dog. Building a relationship through a camera is a little bit different. And because of that, I think you always need salespeople that can ask great discovery questions. I think in selling online, you really have to focus on discovery.
Yeah, makes sense.
So with what has happened with COVID and, you know, stock market ups and downs, you name it, with decades of experience, you know, what do you do? What are you seeing, and what would you suggest to people to ensure that they're around for decades to come, regardless of what happens, the highs and the lows?
Sure. So when I started Tundraland, I started this business in May of 2009 in the back of a friend's warehouse on a plastic folding table with $3,000 in cash. So that's how the business started, right? There was no org chart inside of our business. It was me, okay? It was me. And I think that for a business to still be around 20 years from now, as you asked that poll question, how many salespeople do you have? I'm sure everybody that's engaged in this presentation right now is here because you, some way or another, you want to grow your business. That's why you're here. You want to grow your business. You want to say, how do I grow my business? All right. So I want to talk about one of the risks that comes along with business growth. So what happens is, as you start to grow your business and add salespeople, then you need a sales manager. Then you start to add sales. Now you need an assistant sales manager. Then maybe you need a VP of sales. Then maybe you need, and your org chart gets taller and taller and taller and taller. And what that means for the CEO of the business is they get further and further away from the customer. They get further and further away from the customer. And the further the CEO is from the customer, the more they're not in touch with what's important to the customer. And if you want to be around for 20 years from now, you have to be very, very customer focused. As long as you understand stay close to the people that are closest to the customer. The other thing to know is that as a company grows and as you add layers to your org chart, you might have an executive leadership team and they get well developed from your CEO. You might have some frontline people, your salespeople, your marketing people, and they're scripted like crazy. The people that get neglected are the middle managers, those people managing the people closest to the customer. So you want to make sure that if you want to be relevant 20 years from now, make sure that you're developing the people properly and you're always listening to your customer. We keep an open chair. We keep an empty chair in every one of our meetings in our company, empty chair in every single meeting, and that chair says customer. We always want to make sure the customer has a seat in every single one of our meetings, because what happens in the home improvement business is it's easy for a meeting to be about closing averages, about conversion ratios, about marketing costs, about new events or shows opening up, about products to take on, and we forget to talk about the customer, except maybe the pissed off customer. You want to talk about your customers all the time. As long as you're customer focused, you will you can navigate through any crisis.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love that idea of keeping that empty chair that really like symbolizes that the customer is there with you, and they should be. So that just kind of gives you a solid reminder to keep that top of mind. I love that idea. So we touched on this, I think, a little bit earlier, but I just wanted to kind of dive a little bit deeper in terms of like how technology has really given you the competitive edge, especially now with things going remote and with digital appointments being more at the forefront of things. So if you could talk a little bit about like your tech stack and how that's been working for you.
Yeah, so a couple of areas. First and foremost, let's just pretend you're walking into a restaurant, okay? And you go to a restaurant and the waiter comes up to your table and they've got a little pad and they say, what would you like for dinner? And you say the salmon, and they walk away and they will get you the salmon. That's one dining experience. Now let's pretend for a moment that you're going to a restaurant, you're taking somebody else out to dinner, okay? Maybe it's a business dinner or whatever. You're taking somebody out, you've never been to this restaurant before. So when the waiter comes up to your table, he's not coming up with just a pad to write down your order on. He's got a table. He's got a napkin folded over his arm. He's very professional. He's wearing a bow tie, and he says, "How may I help you? We have wonderful salmon that swims upstream, and we pull it when the mussels are strong." You already know. Oh my gosh, this is going to be one heck of a meal. What happened is your expectations have risen. What a strong digital presence does is it raises the customer's expectations of who you are as an organization, and understand something, that how does the customer get value? How does a customer capture value? An organization captures value if you look at whatever it costs you to build something and what you charge somebody. The difference between those two things is how an organization captures value. The way a customer captures value, it's the difference between what you charge and what they were willing to pay. In other words, you have a piece of salmon and the salmon was $20. And you're like, oh my gosh, that was the best salmon I ever had. I would have paid $40 for it. All of a sudden, you as a customer captured a tremendous amount of value. Technology, performance, that's how you build value for the customer. When a customer visits our website and they say, oh my gosh, it's easy to navigate, it's clear, it's exciting, it's engaging, it's beautiful, it sets us apart from everybody else, and it already starts the journey of building value. Socius does our website. They do a terrific job. We're always getting great compliments on our website, easy to navigate. And by the way, it performs. Our chief marketing officer loves you guys, by the way. Ted just absolutely loves you. But and it's an important part of our strategy. But then when it comes to, we have 60 plus salespeople. What I as the CEO want, there's this whole philosophy of we want to exceed your expectations. We want to exceed expectations. The challenge with exceeding expectations is sometimes you might and sometimes you might not. What I as a CEO want is I want to deliver excellence with consistency. I want to constantly deliver excellence with consistency. And what a tool like Leap does, as an example, from a technology standpoint, it allows our entire sales presentation to be delivered with excellence, with consistency. And if you're trying to grow a business, it's really difficult to grow a business if you can't replicate success. The most challenging thing is to have one great salesperson and one is not so great. I'm trying to replicate that if only I could. What you want to do is you can build a business model around anything as long as you can replicate it. And as you grow your business, you want to be able to scale and replicate with consistency. I don't know how you get there without embracing platforms of technology like Leap. That's a key piece in your business.
Fantastic. So I think that actually gives us a nice segue. We'll give you a second to catch a breather, take a little sip of water. And I wanted to just put up a few offers that we have for our attendees here today on this webinar. So Leap and Socius are both offering some free consultations to anyone who is interested on here. So let me just go ahead and throw this up on the screen here. So these are no obligation consultations, really just to help you learn a little bit more about your sales and marketing processes respectively, and how you can improve upon those. So on the LEAP consultation, it's a personal discussion of your sales process and the efficiencies that are within there, and gives you a full custom tour of the LEAP platform. So about 30 minutes or so, just again, free consultation, no obligation on there. And then Socius is offering some free website analysis. So Ted, if you'd like to maybe tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, the idea here is just giving you some good analysis on what's actually happening with your website, the marketing, you know, where you show up, more importantly, where you don't show up, things like that. It's important to realize that there is no one size fits all answer. You know, what works for Brian in Wisconsin is probably a different strategy than what's working for him in Arizona, or at least tweaks to it. And the size and the product and where you are in the competition, all that stuff should be, you know, thought of when putting together how you're going to market and how to be successful. So, you know, our goal is to help you walk through that and give you a good idea as to what's actually happening, you know, with your digital presence.
Perfect. All right. So I'll give everyone another second or so if you'd like to select either of those options on the screen there. And then we'll move on to the rest of our presentation. Okay. All right, I'm going to close that out now. All right, so let's jump back in. Ted?
Yeah, so one of my favorite quotes, it's Mike Tyson, I think, is the person who said it, that everybody's got a plan until they get hit in the mouth. And I think, you know, every organization on this call, myself included, you know, we all had plans in December for what 2020 was going to look like. And that changed pretty quickly. Some people were really successful with it. You know, some people had to ramp up. You know, what can you do, or what should people be looking at to try to squeeze the most out of these remaining 6 months, knowing that the first 6 were, if nothing else, crazy?
Yeah. Well, I'll share with you our personal journey that we went through when the whole COVID thing hit. You know, again, 70% of our lead generation at that time came through face-to-face marketing. I mean, 70%, which got turned off overnight. Just bam, just got turned off. And you know, like a lot of people that are on here, the business changed quickly, and we had to make some major decisions around what does that mean for our business, right? What does it mean for our business? How long is this going to last? How deep is it going to go? What does that look like? How do you stress test your P&L? How do you make sure your supply chain is solid? How do you make sure your customers are safe? How do you make sure your employees are safe? All of that stuff. And you know, what we ended up doing is, you know, as I started going through the process with our leadership team on you know, what does it look like if things continue to decline. Try as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, building a business and then having to try to dismantle it overnight as quick as possible. I got to tell you, it's an emotional roller coaster. But what came out of that is I have absolutely no experience on how to dial back a business. I have no idea how to go backwards as an organization. So I thought, why would I want to go backwards as an organization when I don't know how to do that? I only know how to grow. So we ended up doing is we got a hold of Socius, we got a hold of television stations. We just said, sometimes you just got to go all in on an idea. And we decided we're going to market our way through this. And early on, we really tripled down on marketing, and we were able to totally explode our business where, you know, we've 2 and 3 times growth rates of what we've seen in our organization like never before. So now, you know, you've got this big backlog, right? Now we got to try to squeeze, right? How do we get 12 months worth of business into the next 6 months? When I started this business on a plastic folding table, if you would have asked me what we were at that time, I would have said, first and foremost, I would have said we're a construction company. That's what we are. If you would have asked me 5 years ago, I would have said, well, we're a sales and marketing company that happens to be in construction. If you ask me today what we are, I would tell you that first and foremost, we're a training organization. That's who we are. We have a room up in one of our buildings. It's called Tundraland University. And everybody goes through it, by the way, from our call center to our salespeople, even our entire installation team, which are employees, all go through Tundraland University. Everybody's scripted. We want to deliver excellence with consistency. And to do that, we have to train. So to me, you have to shift your mindset to becoming a training organization. And what that means is you might have to say, I'm going to have installers train other installers on how to install, but they might be great installers, but they might not be great trainers. We have to shift our focus to teach installers how to be great trainers. And I'll share with you one thing we do is we created, so what must an installer be excellent at? So we listed these, 20 things they have to be excellent at. We created a grading system on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being you're excellent, 1 being you're not yet. And we gave them this test at the very beginning when we were training a new hire. We said, this is what you're going to be graded on. And what we're going to be doing is every single day, we're going to be grading you so you can see your progress on all these different items. And the items might be, keeping the job site clean, talking to the customer, proper flashing, proper caulking, whatever those items are. But if you think about the things that your team must be excellent at, document those things, and then work with your people inside of the organization that are training others. And it's kind of like teaching to the test. So if imagine if all of us were in school again and we got the test ahead of time, how much better we do on it. So what we wanted to do is create a test model so that people know what they need to be graded on, so that we could take what was normally a longer training period and squeeze it into a shorter period of time so we can really scale and build out our backlog. That's what we've done. We've seen it super successful. And the neat thing is it gives people an opportunity that maybe have been helpers in our business, always looking for that next opportunity to become a lead person. It kind of speeds up their company journey, and they're pretty excited about that.
As a follow-up to that, what attributes are you looking for in the people that you designated as trainers? And then as a second point, were there any misses on trainers that really shouldn't be training, and how did you deal with that to keep somebody that's good at their job but maybe can't fill this new role?
Right. There's the concept of advancing somebody to the point of inefficiency, right? So just because people have to have a passion for training. So what we did is we identified who we wanted as, first of all, it starts with the trainee, right? We have to have the right trainee, because you can take the best trainer in the world. When we hire somebody, the first and foremost, more important than anything else, is, are they trainable? Because if we are a training organization, like we say we are, then we have to bring on people that are trainable. So if they're trainable, honeable, so what we look for with people that are trainers are folks that are patient, that can explain, that are strong in our culture and beliefs, that understand our mission statement and our vision statement, that can represent the brand, and that again, deliver excellence with consistency. Those are the people that you want to grow your business off of. Have I ever gotten it wrong? Yeah, but in our business, we have a saying around our business: it's okay to be wrong, just don't be wrong for long. So you just got to make change when you're wrong.
Yeah,
fair
absolutely.
enough.
That's a good, very fair. All right. So I think you mentioned earlier in that last question that when COVID started, you were exploring all kinds of marketing different options and really exploding kind of like what your marketing efforts were. And I think we've seen tons of new options arise too. It seems like every month there's something new to explore, from like Google Ads, TV, Nextdoor, even TikTok or things like that. So what channels is Tundraland and are you particularly looking at? Could you share some examples of what you're doing now?
Happily. So understand, whatever size business you are, you have to say, what is the foundation of my marketing strategy? What is that foundation? And to me, your foundation is a digital strategy, first and foremost. So having a great website that you can put in front of your customer. So first and foremost, a strong digital strategy on both an organic strategy and a paid strategy. And then everything builds on top of that, because that's where people are going to go, and they might go to your website more than once. And you want something that's super easy to that not just looks good, but also functions well. That's really important as a baseline for your marketing. Then on top of that, as you build your business, I mean, I think there have been some opportunities with, maybe in your neighborhood, if you're watching this right now, there aren't as many competitors open as there were a few months ago. So some of the lead sources that you used to find very competitive might not be as competitive anymore, whether it's like a Home Advisor or a Porch or Modernize or some of those paid lead sources, because a lot of companies have cut back in those areas, and that creates more of an exclusive lead, which used to be a competitive lead. There's that, okay? But I also believe that that because our mission statement is to do well and do good, I do believe the other structure, when we talk about the foundation of digital, I believe the other foundation to an organization has to be cause marketing. And what cause marketing says is we're not just a company of products. We're a company that wants to make a significant positive impact in the communities that we serve. So we look at our business as how do we weave ourselves into the fabric of a community. And by doing so, it gives us credibility in everything else that we do. One example of it is what we do with our window business. When we put windows in people's homes, just like if you guys are in the window business, you put a window in somebody's home and you take the old window out and you throw the old window in the trash. And that's kind of what you do. What we do with the old windows is when we remove old windows from people's homes, we work with local artists, community members, business owners, elementary school kids, you name it, the police department, the fire department, and they repurpose these old windows into beautiful art pieces. And then once a year, we take all these art pieces and we put them on display and we do a giant silent auction, and all the money raised goes to make a positive impact in the life of another individual in the community. Another example is our Bats for the Brave program, where there are a lot of veterans that have served our country proudly and sadly are afraid to take a shower in their own home safely. They're afraid of their own bathroom. And we think that's simply unacceptable. So we started surprising veterans with free bath remodeling projects. As that program started to grow, we named it Bats for the Brave. And last year, just in time for Veterans Day, with other like-minded companies that are friends of mine, we were able to surprise veterans in 14 states with free bath remodels all at the same time, just in time for Veterans Day. These are the things that to me, an organization can be built on. Now, maybe you don't need to go to that extent, but there are always ways where you can make a positive impact in your community. You see, if all of your marketing is all revolving around barking, roof, barking, sale, promo. If you think about walking around your block, okay, you're going for a walk around your block and your next door neighbor has a dog and is barking at you, and maybe the dog wasn't there yesterday, so it scares the heck out of you. And maybe for the next week, it scares you. But after a while, you just ignore the barking dog. Basic marketing can sometimes be a barking dog. What cause marketing does is it offsets the barking with conversation. And now you're able to talk to your customer and not just pitch to your customer. And it allows everything to work a whole lot better. So I would think about where you as an organization watching this can find opportunities to have conversations with your community. You do that, and I promise you can get through any downturn in this economy.
With cause marketing, obviously we see it, the associates side sees it on the website, and we're seeing it from that start in terms of lead gen. But can you talk to, in some of the other channels, how you're showing that, and then also how your reps are trained and how they talk through that? Because clearly it's something really personal to you. How do you get a new salesperson to feel that same way?
Yeah, so we always encourage all of our people inside of our organization to participate in any of these events that are going on, whether it's visiting whether it's visiting a veteran whose bath that we're crashing, or to any piece, or writing a thank you card or anything like that, or painting a window for Windows for a Cause. But it 2 years ago, we actually set a Guinness World Record for the most painted windows on display. We had our whole team out painting windows, whether you're in the call center or whatever. And then we happily talk about it. And it's important to understand that we talk about it not to be egotistical. We talk about it because our hope is to change the conversation on how a home improvement company can interact with the community. And I think it all comes down to intent. And if your intent is good and you really want to make a difference in a community that you serve, and that, again, there was a time we used to just write checks to nonprofits and send them off, and it went down the river, and nobody in our company even knew about it. Today we say, how do we, if we can make a significant positive impact in the life of just one individual, that's how we start to take part in changing the world. So yeah, we definitely talk about it.
Yeah. That's fantastic. And I can say the windows are fantastic. There's one in our main office, so we have one of your painted windows.
Yep. You guys are great supporters of the cause.
Fantastic.
That sort of takes us into the next question, which I think is more I really wanted to hear from you because it is this sort of philosophy. You know, what is your philosophy on employees and how to value them? And then how does this affect how you're hiring and what you're looking for? And then from a more specific standpoint, onboarding. How is that? How did you used to do it? How do you do it now? And has it gotten better in some ways?
So our philosophy on team members inside of the organization, I'll use a sports analogy. I don't know, Ted, Kelly, do you guys like sports? Do you like sports? Yeah, I mean, I like sports. I'm not a crazy sports fan, but there are some really great athletes nowadays that are competing, and they're setting records like crazy. And we know sooner or later somebody's going to come along and break whatever record is being set today. The exception to that rule was what happened on May 6th, 1954. There was a sports record in the books back then. Nobody thought anybody would ever break it. In fact, the mass consensus back then was the human body was simply incapable of doing what happened on May 6th, 1954. It's the day that Roger Bannister ran a 4-minute mile. Nobody thought the human body could until he did. But once Roger Bannister ran a 4-minute mile, within the next 12 months, 8 more people ran a 4-minute mile. You see, Roger Bannister inspired a generation to accomplish something greater than people ever thought possible before. Roger Bannister created a new level of excellence. When we hire anybody inside of our organization, we tell that story. Because the real opportunity of being a part of our team is you can have a job, we'll be happy to pay you. You can have a career path, we'll be happy to advance you. You can also look at this business as a pivot point in your life, as a time where you've stepped out of your comfort zone to realize your full potential and chase your 4-minute mile, no matter how crazy everybody else might think it is. You can truly accomplish whatever you want. But it all comes down to understanding that when you start any new job, when you start any new role, when you start learning things, it's uncomfortable. It's out of your comfort zone. But if you only stay in your comfort zone, that's the only thing you know. The more you step out of it, the wider your familiar zone becomes. And the wider your familiar zone, the higher your full potential. So our opportunity to value employees is to constantly stretch them to realize their full potential. As far as how it affects us to recruit and train, if people don't get all jazzed up about that, we can't help them. They're probably not the right fit for our organization. So that's why it's really about, are they trainable? Are they honable? Are they honest? Are they hungry? All of those kind of things. To talk about how COVID has affected the onboarding process, pre-COVID, we've got 260 employees in our organization, 260 employees. So you can imagine when we bring somebody on board and we give them a tour of Tundraland and they see all this buzz and noise going on. I mean, there's an energy that now, if you give we've got, there are plenty of parking places in our parking lot right now. We don't have that same energy when onboarding people. And the risk of that, the risk that each and every one of us on this video conference has, is that the risk you run is when you change the way you onboard people and you change that personal interaction, it's easy for culture to break down over time. People get siloed, it's easy for culture to break down. So what we've done is we've made some conscious efforts of look, there's absolutely no reason why we can't do the same thing on Zoom. There's no reason why when we're promoting somebody, they can't join a Zoom meeting and with our leadership team so we can congratulate them on their journey. And by the way, what we found is that we found new ways of communicating with our employees. And in some ways, we're probably communicating better than ever before. Whether it's through the onboarding process, we make sure that they know exactly who to talk to, or we do a welcome chat on Zoom, or the promotional process. These are definitely challenging times. However, if treated properly, you can emerge from this as a much stronger organization. I truly believe that. Any weak spot inside of a company was exposed at the first sign of disruption. As you navigate through this, you emerge stronger. And to do so, but at the end of the day, you have to believe in the human spirit. You have to believe that the human spirit is limitless. And as long as you invest in your people, everything's going to be fine.
Makes sense. You said, if I remember right, it was 260 employees, somewhere around that number?
That's right.
Okay. How, obviously with sales being more, client facing, and then removing installation from that, depending on the situation, what's your plan at an organization of that size for bringing back or not bringing back some departments that don't necessarily, touch a client?
Right. So we always want to bring everybody back, right? So there were certain people we were able to advance them into other parts of the business. We could say, hey, why don't you try sales? Other people we moved into the call center. So we tried to reposition people wherever possible. I think the one thing, again, we don't know if, we're a partner of the Milwaukee Brewers. Okay, I think I just heard that they're going to be playing baseball, but probably to an empty stadium. So some of these events, that a lot of Summerfest stuff in Wisconsin is just not coming back this year, at least. So there's a lot of unknowns. So if we can utilize people for other roles inside of our organization, or maybe they want to learn how to be an installer, I think we just have to be creative and say, if I believe in the person and they have that learning mentality, then there's always an opportunity for them to stick with us and grow.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very fair way of looking at it. What about departments that felt like they were a necessity to be in the building? First off, how much of your staff is back in the building, and are there any that you prioritize to get back in versus allowing them to stay remote, or are you still experimenting? What are the specifics on how you're doing it?
Ted, I made the decision early on when the whole COVID virus started that I was not going to judge how anybody felt about this. Okay, maybe if somebody said, hey, you know what, I don't feel comfortable going to work right now, I'll support that decision. If somebody felt totally comfortable to go to work, I'll support that decision. I didn't want to. I wanted to be really easy to work with throughout this whole process, and that served us very, very well. We have some people that are in the office. We have some accounting people that are in the office. We have our HR department in the office. We're able to social distance in our call center, so there are a few people in there. There's some people that like working in the office environment, and there are other people that enjoy working at home. So we really make it, and of course our sales team, we have daily Zoom meetings with our sales team every single morning. We do a wellness check. We do a little rah-rah with them. So that's really important also. But we just finally did our first face-to-face training last week. We rented this giant room. I mean, it was a massive room. So everybody was 10 feet apart. So we were able to get everybody in the same room safely and did a nice training. That was really cool. But I think that, again, it's we're going to bring people back at the rate where we believe we can do it safely without rushing anybody. And we'll see. I'd rather yield on the side of being cautious today.
That's completely reasonable. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So I think that rounds out our discussion today. So I know we've got a few questions that are popping up into our chat here. And I just want to say before we dive into that, thank you, Brian, very much for walking us through all of that. That was fantastic. Lots of great tidbits. I was taking some notes here on some takeaways that I will definitely be using. So a lot of great insights to be had. So thanks for that. So everyone on the line, feel free to go ahead and enter your questions into that Q&A box there, and we'll get to that. And just while we're going through our Q&A, I'm going to go ahead and pop back up our poll question from earlier, just in case you didn't get a chance to answer it or anything like that. You'll have another opportunity to get your answers in. So with that, Brian, let me get to our first question here from Scott. This one is specific to some different marketing channels. So Scott's asking that media groups typically have like their own digital marketing departments. And I think that this is probably referring to like trade orgs and things like that. So, and they're all vying for your business, and they typically have a percentage of the budget or of what you're paying that they're taking off the top. Do you have any recommendations on ways to utilize these kinds of groups for digital help, but without having to pay that additional 20% or whatever the fee is for the services?
So it's a great question. I'm not, I think I'm okay trying anything if it works, by the way. And sometimes if there's a cost associated with it, but they can do it better than I can do it on my own, I don't mind paying a cost. I do think that again, not knowing everything about your marketing strategy, and you're always welcome to email me or call me. By the way, I'd be happy to have a conversation with you. I mean, I think is it necessary for you to generate additional leads, or is it a must-have or a nice-to-have? And I think based on answering that question first, then that would allow me to decide what I'd be willing to pay to get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense. All right, I hope that answers your question, Scott. Feel free to drop us another line if that didn't. So next question coming in from Joe. Do you have any advice for bringing people back to work with the unemployment rates being so high right now? And kind of a follow-up to that, do you have anyone specific that you're using for recruiting?
We have our own internal recruitment people that work for us. We have 3 people on our recruitment team, and that's all they do is try to find. It's interesting because 4 months ago we were all complaining about a low unemployment rate, and then poof, overnight there's a huge unemployment rate. There's a lot of people out there, but sometimes getting people to want to come back is a little more difficult, and it's really it's market specific. We haven't had that problem bringing people back. It's been real good for us. We've had really good success recruiting, and if you ask where that talent is coming from, it's everywhere from it's no one particular place. It's everything from Craigslist to Facebook boosted ads that I know Socius does for us, to a very important recruitment strategy inside of your business, to even, I think everybody that works for you should be a recruiter for your organization, because talent is everywhere. We just always got to keep our eyes open for it, and as long as everybody in your organization knows you're looking to hire, you're gonna end up hiring.
To that point, Brian, what is the messaging that you if you could give the elevator pitch for your recruitment beyond a good job and a great organization and make good money, what's the elevator pitch that you're using in these different channels?
Yeah, well, it's first of all, we believe that a lot of, if you figure, well, why, when somebody's looking for a job, there's a reason they're looking for a job, and that's who you're talking to when you're recruiting, right? You're looking for people that are looking for a job. And so we want to, there are only a few reasons why people look for a job. Number one, they recently lost it. Number two, they don't feel appreciated. Number three, they don't feel like they're paid what they're worth. And I think if you address your recruitment messages around that, are you not paid what you're worth? Are you looking to become a part of an organization where you can be appreciated? Do you want to drive a new truck with cool tools? I mean, all that stuff. I think if I was selling investment planning, I would probably advertise, hey, are you afraid you're going to outlive your money? So you always want to, in any kind of marketing piece, whether it's regular marketing for your products or recruitment marketing, you want to overcome the number one objection, and that is their pain point. And so if people don't feel appreciated and all that kind of stuff. But more importantly is there's the ad, but then it's how you process the data through your organization. You really have to look at recruitment like it's lead generation. So when somebody goes to look for a job and they start applying at jobs, they're not applying at one place, they're applying at 30 places. You want to interrupt their shopping habits as quickly as possible. And you want to call them immediately and stop them from applying anywhere else. You want to get them into the pipeline as quickly as possible. And my recommendation is I don't even believe in asking for a resume. I think anybody that's really talented, I don't know any contractor, construction guy that's really good at building stuff that has a sharpened resume. So why would I even ask for a resume? I just want to talk to people. I want to have a conversation with them. And if it seems like a good fit, I want to get them in the office so we can hire them.
Perfect. All right. Our next question is coming in from Victoria. Victoria is asking, what medium has been your strongest driver of leads during the COVID pandemic?
Well, it's a combination, right? So our digital strategy, our internet marketing has been off the charts. It's been really strong. So television's been very strong. Email marketing has been very strong. Direct mail has been very strong. People are home, so they're looking to do stuff while sitting at home. Now they're coming back to work right now, and as things open up a little bit, we're noticing a little bit of changes in some of that, and that's fine. But still, I think I think if you look at the fundamental of digital marketing, of internet marketing, of paid search, of OTT is a big deal. If you don't know what OTT is, it's called off the television. It's if you think about like Hulu, pre-roll, post-roll, those kind of things where people have cut the cord in their home. That's really strong right now, because you can narrow your customer specifically. You can really go after a certain demographic within your customer base, and you can deliver them a solid message. So that's something I'd be looking at if I were you.
Perfect. Great. Hope that answers your question, Victoria. All right. And we have another one coming in from Steve. So knowing that not everyone is as big as Tundraland, there's a lot of other like smaller companies and things like that are on the call with us today. What would you focus on as a smaller organization that's looking to grow, knowing what you know now? What would be your top things to focus on?
Yeah. So we have a saying around our business, and one of the reasons I don't mind sharing everything about our company all the time is our saying is, if you want to copy our performance, you first have to copy what goes on inside of our people's heads. We believe culture, first and foremost, is our point of differentiation. So if you're trying to grow a business, don't sacrifice culture for growth. All right, it's super easy to want to say, oh wow, that guy was a good salesperson at that other company, I'm going to hire them, and it can potentially blow up the culture inside of your organization. Culture, you won't grow a business without a strong culture, first and foremost. Secondly, make sure you're teaching your team and giving your team tools that allow you to replicate your business with consistency. Earlier we talked about the importance of Leap. Leap allows us to replicate with consistency. Whatever you do in your organization, you want to be able to measure it so that you can scale it appropriately. I'll share with you something else we did when I first started the business. Every check I got in from a customer, whether it was for $100 or $10,000, didn't matter. I had a separate bank account that I set up, and I took 10% of that money and I stuck it in a separate account. That was my marketing money, and I always had money to market because it was in a separate account. So there are some fundamental things in a business as you want to grow. Number one, understand, don't confuse cash for profits. There's another. I'll give you another little saying here. Chaos drives revenue, but discipline drives profits. All right. So if you focus on the discipline inside of an organization, utilize tools that are going to help you scale with consistency. And by the way, partner with great companies. Trying to do your internet marketing by yourself probably isn't a great idea. Partner with companies like Socius. They're great. Trying to just pass out a pitch book to a bunch of sales reps and hope they're going to go through it the same way. You have no way of knowing how long they've been on one of the pages. How do you know if they're doing it right? Utilize tools like Leap. It's going to allow you to grow a healthy business, and you'll come back next year and thank me for it.
That's a much better answer than I had in my head. I thought it was going to be, to sponsor the Brewers like you.
Fantastic. Well, I think we're coming on the top of the hour, so I just wanted to open it up for any final words or thoughts from you, Ted and Brian, and just kind of to close out our session here today.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to thank, Leap and Brian for being here. Brian, it's been some great information, and there was a couple of the answers. There's a saying that I use pretty consistently when people have this question about marketing, and it's this, as a homeowner, I should be allowed to pick the color of the roof. That's my prerogative. I'm allowed to pick the shingle color, but you don't want me swinging the hammer because that's not my specialty. That's where a roofer comes in. I could try to put on the roof myself. It would probably be okay, but it wouldn't be as good as it could be. So that's why you have specialists like roofers, like installers, like people in marketing. And if you can find the right team to work with, it makes life a lot easier, regardless of what you're buying, selling, doing. So, thank you guys both very much. This has been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to echo that, and thank you, Ted, for coming on today. And Brian, thanks again for all of your expertise and your insights today. I think that's been some really valuable information for our audience today. So thanks very much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Again, we appreciate our partnership with both of you. You guys have really made a positive impact in our business. And thanks to you folks for joining us. Again, if you focus on your people and you focus on your customer, that you don't have to then worry about the competition. Do those things, execute well, and I promise you'll be a happy camper. Thank you, everybody.
Fantastic. So just to wrap things up today, I do have some contact information here on the screen for Leap and for Associates. I will be including that in the follow-up email that will go out along with a copy of the recording today. I know we've gotten several questions for some contact info, so you will get that in your inboxes here shortly. And then as you're logging out today, we'll have a short survey pop up. Just would love to get your feedback on the session today and get your thoughts on if there's any future topics you'd be interested in hearing about from us. Always looking to for ideas for what you'd like to hear about for the next thing. So feel free again to reach out at any time. You can also, that marketing at Leap to Digital address, that does come directly to me. So if you think of any questions or anything after the webinar today, feel free to shoot a message there, and I'll be happy to respond and get you connected with either one of these gentlemen here. So again, just thank you everyone for joining us on our call today. Thanks again, Ted and Brian, and I hope everyone has a great rest of your afternoon.
Thank you.
Okay. Take care.